In the middle of the night, I stumbled upon a live stream where my wife, supposedly the aloof and elegant type, was secretly hosting a live show. She tearfully complained, "My husband is too distant. What should I do?" At this moment, the viewers started giving her advice. Unbutton half of your shirt, one suggested. Change your straight hair to soft, wavy curls, said another. Set up ambient lighting and dance seductively in front of him. Someone chimed in. That's when your fortune will come. It had only been a month since our wedding. But lately, Liu Ryan seemed to be acting a bit strange. She never used to shop online much. Yet recently, packages were arriving more and more frequently. She would act all sneaky when signing for them, afraid I'd catch a glimpse. Her bedroom, from morning till night, would sometimes emit strange sounds. I was curious, but I had no plans to pry. First of all, I was shooting 3 movies back to back. I was as busy as a dog. Secondly, it had only been a month since our arranged marriage, so we were not exactly close. If she had some peculiar hobbies, that's none of my business, right? A week later, I flew to the set of my new film. From early morning till late at night, I was shooting nonstop. After washing up in my hotel room, I lay down on the bed, scrolling through my phone, trying to find a video to help me sleep. Suddenly, a few trending topics popped up in front of me. How to transform a socialite from the capital in just 1 week. Has Liu Ryan enchanted her husband today? What? Instinctively, I clicked on one of the trending videos. It was a playback of a live stream from a week ago. I saw Liu Ryan, her long hair flowing, wearing casual sleepwear, sitting in the emotional advice segment of a live stream. Her usual cold, composed expression was completely gone. Tears stained her cheeks with red-rimmed eyes. In her hand, she clutched a tissue. Wiping her eyes, then her nose, sobbing uncontrollably, she poured out her woes. "Host, my husband is so cold to me," she cried. "It's been a month since our wedding, and he hasn't said more than 10 words to me. He's always working, disappearing for days. Do you think he hates me? What if he leaves me? What should I do?" I was so startled that I dropped my phone right on my face. How could this possibly be Liu Ryan? Even the host was dumbfounded by her tears. This woman was connecting to a live stream host with the verified blue check, which left the hostess scared to even speak. But the live comments were buzzing with amusement. Ha ha ha, and here we thought she was the elite socialite of the capital. She's crying like a lovesick puppy. Wait, when did my internet CEO wife get married? Who's my rival? As I kept scrolling, the comments began to shift tone. They started giving Liu Ryan advice. "I think Liu Ya is just too straightforward," one said. "What if your husband doesn't like coldness, but prefers warmth and fire instead? How about this, Liu Ya? Try leaving half your shirt unbuttoned. Change your straight hair into soft, wavy curls. Set up some ambient lighting and sway seductively in front of him. Your fortune might just arrive after all." I twitched slightly at the corner of my mouth, unable to stop myself from picturing Liu Ryan in a half-buttoned shirt, swaying her hips in front of me. That couldn't possibly happen, right? But then in the next scene, Liu Ryan actually began learning to dance on her live stream, awkwardly moving her uncoordinated limbs. Then she set up a ladder in front of the large wall in her bedroom. With a nail in her mouth, clumsily hammering in ambient lights. During the process, she even connected with a beauty blogger, awkwardly learning how to style her hair, changing her usual straight hair into soft, wavy curls. She even laid out a whole band of red, white, and gray shirts, letting the viewers passionately vote for the best one. The final video was a replay from 4 hours ago. In it, Liu Ryan was wearing the shirt chosen from the previous video, buttoned up modestly to her throat. In a serious tone, she rejected the viewers' suggestions. "No way," she said. "The half-buttoned shirt is only for my husband to see. I still have to keep my dignity." The viewers went wild, urging her. Then hurry up and show your husband what you've learned. You've been practicing for a whole week, and you haven't tried it out yet? Exactly. And don't forget to record it for us too. Liu Ryan straightened up, a faint, disappointed smile playing on her lips. My husband left for a business trip again this morning, she sighed. Are you serious? Why don't you just ask your secretary to book a flight and fly to him right now? Exactly. Doing all this wifely work without result isn't going to help. Today's the day you have to dance for him. We're trending right now. If you don't do it, your husband will see it on social media. There won't be any surprise left if he finds out. Do you even like him or not? Suddenly, the video cut to black. I held my phone tightly in my hands. Liu Ryan likes me? Even though our families have been close for years, Liu Ryan had spent most of her life abroad. We barely knew each other growing up. We had met less than a handful of times. So this couldn't be real, right? Yet in the next moment, Liu Ryan suddenly sent me a message. Wu Fan Now, are you awake? I was suddenly at a loss and accidentally sent an emoji in reply. It sent back instantly. She quickly followed up with a picture of the night view from my hotel. Then my phone rang. Her soft voice, wrapped in the chill of the night, came through the receiver. Wu Fan Now, are you staying at this hotel? Well, damn, she really came. I fought the urge to shout out loud, trying to keep calm. What's up? I asked. There was a moment of silence on the other end. I have a meeting at the ceremony tomorrow morning. My assistant Joe booked the same hotel for me. Right, by the way, Fang Yi made sweet and sour ribs tonight. She insisted I bring some. I can't finish it all. Do you want some? I'll have Joe bring it up to your room. Her usually cold voice was slightly hesitant, as if she had just told the biggest lie of her life. Instinctively, I moved to the window and looked down. Sure enough, there she was, wrapped in a coat, standing alone by the snowy hotel garden. My heart skipped a beat. Before I knew what I was doing, I gave her my room number. I hung up the phone, suddenly realizing, oh no. This hotel was notorious among the entire film crew for attracting paparazzi. I had forgotten to warn her about them coming up to my room. But it was already too late. The doorbell rang outside my room. I rubbed my temples, feeling a wave of unease wash over me. I peeked through the peephole. Thankfully, she was at least wearing a baseball cap and mask to cover herself. As fast as I could, I opened the door and pulled Liu Ryan inside. But as soon as she entered, she leaned slightly against the wall, her hand trembling as she handed me the food container. Her voice now hoarse and raspy. The sweet and sour ribs are really bland. I took the container from her, and when my hand accidentally brushed against hers, I noticed something strange. It was freezing outside. Her palms were burning hot. I instinctively leaned closer to get a better look at her. Liu Ryan weakly lifted her head. Her eyes glazed over, and the corners of her eyes were unnaturally red, not like the makeup tricks taught by those livestream viewers. I knew something was wrong right away. I immediately pulled off her mask. And sure enough, her face was flushed, and her forehead was burning. You seem to have a fever, I said urgently, dragging her toward the bed. But she stubbornly pulled her hand away. I'll go back to my room, she muttered. I don't want to get you sick and affect your work. Liu Ryan smiled faintly, but there was a sadness in it. She put her mask back on and turned to leave. I shook my head and stepped ahead to lock the door before she could go. Sure, you can go back. But do you have any medicine? Are you planning to spend the night burning up alone? I crossed my arms and smirked. Doesn't seem like your assistant Joe is around either, right? Liu Ryan lowered her head even further. leaving me no choice but to push her gently onto the bed. She seemed to have been feeling unwell for quite a while. Her body sank into the mattress almost immediately. She instinctively pulled the blanket over herself, wrapping herself up like a cocoon. "Take off that soaked coat covered in alcohol before you get under the blanket," I said, hurriedly pulling her out from the covers. I clumsily stripped off her coat, struggling a bit as I removed it. And there it was, she was wearing that black robe underneath, with the buttons recklessly undone halfway. No wonder she's freezing. I reached out to button up her shirt, but to my surprise, she blushed, quickly tugging at her collar. "What are you pulling at? Button up properly," I said, rolling my eyes. Fed up, I climbed on top of Liu Ryan, pinning her down as I buttoned her shirt one by one. I had to admit, her figure was quite impressive. I was tempted to keep going, but I knew better than to let my thoughts spiral. At this point, Liu Ryan had no strength left to resist me. She could only squint her dazed eyes, her cheeks flushed red, staring at me intently. The fever had mellowed her, her usual cold demeanor now as gentle as a warm spring. She let me handle everything without complaint. After reluctantly getting her settled, I quickly fetched my small first aid kit, taking out some fever medicine for her. It took almost half an hour to get her sorted out. I leaned back against the chaise longue, watching Liu Ryan as she rested with her eyes closed. With the medicine and rest, she was finally starting to recover, her mind clearing a bit. But she avoided looking at me, her voice barely a whisper, laced with a hint of defeat. "Sorry for disturbing your rest." I frowned, studying her closely. "You don't strike me as someone with a weak constitution." It had been a month since our wedding, and though we hadn't really communicated much, I had gotten to know Liu Ryan's personal habits. Despite everything, she always kept a disciplined routine, going to the gym no less than 3 times a week. Could it be Could it be that she's worn herself out by staying up late these past few days learning those dance moves? "Sis, do you know what you've done to yourself?" I quietly murmured to myself. But looking at her face, beautiful yet marked by a fragile exhaustion, I couldn't help but feel conflicted inside. Sighing heavily, I pulled a spare blanket from the closet, spreading it on the other side of the bed. Before I could even lie down, Liu Ryan suddenly sat up with a start, looking at me like she had done something wrong. Knowing what she was about to ask, I shrugged nonchalantly. "Unless you want me to sleep on the couch, but that would really mess up my work tomorrow." "But I'm still running a fever. I'm not that fragile." I chuckled softly, pushing her gently back into the covers. Turning off the lights, I lay down beside her. The room suddenly became eerily quiet. So quiet, I could hear the increasingly rapid sound of a heartbeat nearby. Liu Ryan must have noticed too, because she started curling up tightly, trying to hide it. She shifted uncomfortably on the bed, her movements awkward and stiff. Watching her tense back rise and fall, my mind began wandering. If she weren't running a fever tonight, would she have really danced seductively in front of me? What would that have looked like? I don't know when I finally fell asleep, but when I opened my eyes again, morning light was slowly filtering in, and there she was, standing by the bed, quietly putting on her coat. I rubbed my eyes and sat up. The rustling of the sheets caught her off guard. She quickly turned around, looking at me apologetically. "Did I wake you?" "No," I replied, glancing at the time. Stretching lazily, I added, "My assistant will be here soon to rush me off to the set." At this, Liu Ryan hurriedly put on her shoes. But then, after a brief pause, she walked back toward me, her hands trembling slightly as if she had made up her mind. She reached out and gently touched my forehead, breathing a sigh of relief. "Good, you don't have a fever." I laughed. "I told you, I'm not that fragile." Looks like your fever's gone down too, right? Liu Ryan raised her brow slightly, nodding instinctively. Yes, I think so. But if your fever's not fully gone, you should keep taking medicine. I shook my head, and before she could react, I swiftly grabbed her collar, pulling her toward me. Caught off guard, Liu Ryan stumbled, quickly reaching out to brace herself on the bed, her hand landing just beside me. The position was undeniably intimate, her long arms trapping me in an awkward embrace. Ignoring the panic in her eyes, I reached out and touched her forehead too. Fever's gone, and you've even broken a sweat. My gaze wandered over her slightly wavy hair. I stifled a smile, sitting back down. Let me fix your hair. I turned around, grabbing a hairdryer and straightener. Liu Ryan hesitated for a moment, her expression dimming slightly. Do you think I look good with this hairstyle? Of course, you look adorable, like a little kitten. I swiftly worked on styling her hair back into her usual commanding look, finishing it off with a playful curl in her bangs. You've got work later, don't you? You need to keep up your aura. Liu Ryan raised an eyebrow, quietly watching me, until I finished fixing her hairstyle. Only then did she give a faint sigh of relief. It feels like it's the first time we've talked this much, she muttered softly. I watched as she left, and as I started changing clothes, I couldn't help but recall her words from the live stream. Could it really be true that in a whole month, we hadn't exchanged more than 10 words? Today, I had to film a scene involving an argument at the office, and the crew had rented out one of the city's most iconic business towers for the shoot. They really went all out for this. I had heard that it's incredibly difficult to get permission to use a space here. Shen Yachu, the actress playing the female lead opposite me, let out a sigh of admiration. I also heard that most of this building is under the control of that well-known socialite, she added. I froze for a moment. Could Liu Ryan be holding a meeting here right now? As I pondered this, I heard the sound of a chair scraping the floor beside me. Wu Fanao, no night shoots today, right? Shen Yachu leaned in front of me, batting her eyes like a playful kitten. I heard there's a great lounge bar nearby. The vibe is amazing. I've already invited a few of my girlfriends, she continued. Would you like to join us too? Before I could respond, she added with a mischievous smile. There'll be so many of us that even if the media catches us, it won't be a big deal, right? This girl had been stuck to me like glue ever since she joined the crew, always finding excuses to hang around me, like a persistent little pest, never missing a chance to stick close. Although her looks and personality are exactly my type, for some reason, whenever I see her, I get a subtle, inexplicable sense of unease. So outside of filming, I've been careful to keep my distance from her. Tonight, I've got plans, I blurted out. A fleeting image of Liu Ryan crossed my mind. It's just bad timing, I added hastily. Shen Yachu paused for a moment, but still flashed me that sweet smile. I noticed her gaze quickly shift upward, lingering for just a second on the top of my head. Instinctively, I ran my fingers through my hair. But then, I felt a sudden, bone-chilling stare hit my back. At the same time, the director was already calling us to set. Main actors to the rest area. In the rush, I didn't have time to figure out who was behind that cold gaze. I only caught a glimpse of a slender figure quickly retreating. The scene was a confrontation between the male and female leads, rivals in a meeting room, which would end in a sweet reconciliation behind closed doors. After we wrapped up the meeting room segment, Shen Yachu and I moved to the break room. This was the first intimate scene in the entire drama. Shen Yachu, for her part, seemed carefree. I've never filmed an intimate scene before, she admitted, so I'll rely on you to guide me through it. But just as the director yelled action, the same slender figure suddenly burst through the fire exit door, charging straight toward me and Shen Yachu. "Who is that?" the director yelled in shock from the other side. I quickly got a clear look at the intruder. It was a young boy, a crew badge hanging from his chest. His figure and clothing almost identical to the person I had seen fleeing earlier. But this time, he was holding a sharp fruit knife in his hand. Realizing what was happening, I immediately stepped back, grabbing a nearby chair for protection as I backed away. But the boy didn't charge at me. Instead, he rushed straight toward Shen Yachu and, without hesitation, stabbed her arm with the knife. Screams erupted all around. Shen Yachu's arm began bleeding profusely. I froze in place, my vision spinning with the sight of blood, my hands and feet turning cold and trembling. I have a severe blood phobia, and I can't stand the sight of scenes like this. But the chaos on set was overwhelming. Everyone rushed to separate Shen Yachu from the boy, frantically trying to manage the situation. Just as I was about to pass out, a voice called out, "What's happening here?" Several people rushed in from outside the break room. One figure suddenly quickened their pace, taking just a few steps to reach me. They pulled me into their arms just as I was about to collapse. In that warm embrace, I could faintly smell the scent of my own perfume. The head director, Liu, came running over to us, sweating profusely as he explained, "Someone attacked the crew. An actor. We're not sure if it's a stalker or not. Please don't worry," he added. "We'll handle this situation properly and make sure it doesn't cause any trouble for you or the venue." It turned out this office area was under Liu Ryan's control. However, before the director could finish speaking, Liu Ryan bent down and scooped me up by the waist. "He's got a blood phobia. I'll take him to a place with fresh air." Her calm, cool voice came from above. She then swiftly instructed her assistant, Joe, to call an ambulance. By the time I regained my senses, I was lying on a soft sofa in a spacious office. "Feeling better?" Seeing me open my eyes, Liu Ryan, who was squatting beside the sofa, immediately handed me a mug. "This is honey water. Drink it, it should make you feel better." "Thanks," I murmured, propping myself up as I took the mug. As I drank, my eyes casually glanced at the phone on the coffee table. The screen was still open on a search page, "How to relieve blood phobia." So Liu Ryan even knew about my blood phobia? I looked at her silently, noticing my gaze. Her ears flushed slightly with embarrassment. She quickly cleared her throat and apologized. "Sorry, I didn't manage the security in the building properly. I'm glad you're all right." I shook my head and smiled. The boy had a crew badge. Even if you were on top of things, it would have been hard to catch him. I thought back to the boy's face, my brow furrowing slightly. But I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. What's even stranger, was that his initial hostility seemed impulsive? Why would he suddenly target Shen Yachu and stab her? "Looks like you've been on his radar for a while," Liu Ryan murmured. Hearing this, Liu Ryan instantly grew tense. She quickly grabbed her phone. "I'll have Joe arrange a few more bodyguards for you," she said. "It's not that serious." I shook my head. My gut told me that there was something more to dig into here. Cutting things off too early might cause us to miss something important. Since Shen Yachu's injury was severe and required hospitalization, the filming for the show had to be temporarily halted. This incident even made it to the trending topics. Shen Yachu's fans were furious, hurling insults at the obsessed stalker. But before they could vent for too long, the trending topic was quickly suppressed. Even Shen Yachu herself came forward, stating that she wouldn't press charges against the attacker. This move immediately piqued the curiosity of onlookers. People began speculating about the attacker's true identity. As for me, during the forced break from work, I was so bored that I had nearly counted all the tiles in the hotel. I mindlessly scrolled through my social media feed and noticed that Liu Ryan was still around. She had just posted a photo of a handshake, likely indicating that her business deal had gone through successfully. At that moment, a push notification from a short video app popped up. Your frequently watched Liu Ryan is live streaming right now. I clicked on it instinctively. Liu Ryan was sitting in her office at her branch company, flipping through documents and signing them, all while live streaming. The comment section was blowing up. Liu, yeah, it's been so long since you last streamed. So did the plan work that day? Has your hubby reignited his passion for you? Look at you smiling like that. Tell us more about that night, the comments urged. Liu Ryan gently adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses, glancing at the comments. She smiled and shook her head. The plan failed, she admitted with a soft laugh. But from that day until now, my husband has spoken 24 whole sentences to me. And it seems he still doesn't know about the trending topic from that day. So I think the element of surprise is still intact. Oh, by the way, she added with a sly grin. That day, I even caught him off guard. He got all excited and embarrassed. Liu Ryan couldn't help but remove her glasses and cover her face in bashfulness. The comments flooded in even faster. Pure love brain energy overload. She's keeping track of every word he says. One hug in broad daylight isn't enough. Listen up, girl, you've got to get that nighttime hug. You're married to a CEO. You need to seduce him. Pin him to the wall, kiss him passionately. Do this and that, then this and that again. What kind of geniuses are these commenters? I sighed, rubbing my temples. But Liu Ryan seemed to be thoroughly enjoying herself. Suddenly, an idea seemed to strike her. She switched over to her messaging app and sent me a text. Are you free tonight? The live chat held its breath. Then came the familiar sound. Liu Ryan's eyes widened in surprise, her hands trembling as she grabbed her phone. Her face lit up with excitement. Even the live stream screen trembled slightly with her. My husband messaged me. This is the first time he's ever texted me first. He's asking if I'm free tonight. The comment section exploded again. Quick, reply. Of course, you're free. Forget about work. Who cares about documents or contracts? Is making money more important than your husband? Oh heavens, this is another chance for you to show your moves. Quick, get up and dance. The comments cheered. Soon, Liu Ryan messaged me back. How can someone with a body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius manage to bring the room down to minus 37 degrees Celsius? Watching her act all playful and giddy on her live stream, I couldn't help but click my tongue. Have you eaten yet? Want to grab dinner together? I texted her. In the live stream, the audience let out a collective gasp. Ladies and gentlemen, my husband just asked me to dinner. Liu Ryan, filled with excitement, did a full flip on the soft sofa. What are you flipping for? Just say yes already, the chat urged. Amidst all the chaos, I received yet another carefully crafted message. I couldn't help but smirk. Why is this woman always so hesitant in front of me? Wasn't she the one getting ready to show off her half-buttoned shirt and dance under ambient lights for me? Thinking of this, I glanced at the hotel's lighting control panel, specifically at the button labeled ambient mode. A bold idea popped into my head. Liu Ryan, you've piqued my interest now. Tonight, you'd better dance for me. Thanks to the whole Shen Yachu incident, all the paparazzi were preoccupied camping at the hospital. So I made plans to meet Liu Ryan at the hotel restaurant instead. When I pulled out a large bottle of red wine, Liu Ryan looked visibly startled. What? Can't handle alcohol? I asked, feigning innocence. Liu Ryan's low alcohol tolerance was one of the few things I knew about her. Something her mother had once confided in me. A few drops of alcohol, and I turn into a mess, she had once said. Normally, during social events, Joe handles the drinking for her, allowing her to stay sharp and dominate the business world. Back then, I didn't think much of it, but now I intended to use it to my advantage. Tonight, I just needed to get her slightly tipsy. Make her just a little slower, and she'd be as obedient as a kitten. Liu Ryan didn't refuse, quietly watching as I poured a small amount of wine into her glass. Sure enough, after dinner, she bravely took a couple of sips, her cheeks flushing a rosy red. Clearly not handling it well. It's getting late. We should head back to our rooms, she quickly suggested, trying to maintain her composure. Sure, I agreed, but as I stood, I deliberately wobbled a bit. Are you okay? Liu Ryan was startled, rushing over to support me. I smirked inwardly, but outwardly I pressed my temples, pretending to be dizzy, leaning casually into her arms. I think I've had too much. Can you help me back to my room? I could feel her heartbeat quicken against my chest. Sure, she replied, though I deliberately slowed our pace as we walked, just as I had predicted. The moment she got me to my room, her poor tolerance for alcohol couldn't hold out any longer. Her eyes narrowed slightly, her usual sharpness dulled by the wine. Quickly, I pulled her inside, locking the door behind us. Then, with a flick of my wrist, I activated the ambient lighting mode. A soft, warm orange-red glow filled the entire bedroom instantly. The ambient mode even came with a soft jazz tune, the kind that makes your heart race and cheeks flush. And for Liu Ryan, who was already tipsy, it was even more overwhelming. She paused for a moment, but ultimately let me guide her to sit down on the edge of the bed. Are you drunk too? I handed her a cup of warm water, playfully teasing. I only saw you take 2 sips. Can't handle your liquor? That comment seemed to ignite her competitive spirit. No, she shook her head, but her hand instinctively reached to loosen her collar. In the dim light, her delicate collarbone flickered in and out of view, drawing attention. Right, I nodded, then casually reclined on the chaise longue, waving her off. Well, thanks for walking me back. You can go now. Good night. Liu Ryan straightened up, her eyes clouded with confusion as she looked at me, but she made no move to leave the bed. After a long pause, her voice came out husky. Wu Fan out, can I do something before I leave? Before I could respond, she clenched her hands, as if resolving something within herself, then rose and walked toward the bathroom. I heard the sharp sound of running water for a moment before it stopped. Curious, I quietly followed, and saw Liu Ryan standing in front of the mirror, her white shirt slightly damp, fingers trembling as she struggled to unbutton it. After what felt like an eternity, she finally reached the first button. She exhaled deeply, staring at herself in the mirror. Then, suddenly, she turned around and locked eyes with me, caught completely off guard. A flash of panic flickered in her eyes. What exactly do you want to do? I leaned back casually, feigning ignorance as I stared her down. Liu Ryan's cheeks flushed even redder. She looked like a lost, anxious puppy, her hand instinctively tightening around her loosened collar. She turned her face away in embarrassment, her delicate, soft demeanor too endearing for words. I inwardly marveled at how endearing she looked, so I purposely stepped closer, my fingers toying with the edge of her unbuttoned collar, twisting it lazily. Liu Ryan, have you been trying to seduce me all along? At my words, her body stiffened, like I had just exposed her deepest secret. She stared directly at me. The room fell into a sudden, intense silence, giving me the eerie feeling of standing in the calm before a storm. Sure enough, in the next second, then unexpectedly stepped forward, closing the distance between us. She didn't answer my question like an obedient puppy. Instead, she pinned me against the floor-to-ceiling window in just a few quick strides. There was a sharp click by my ear. The frosted privacy mode on the window suddenly disappeared with a swipe, becoming clear. Oh no, I started to panic a little, instinctively reaching to pull Liu Ryan's hand off the switch. But she chuckled softly, leaning in to kiss my earlobe. Her words, slurred with intoxication, whispered low and teasingly, "Husband, I've wanted to seduce you for a long time. Even before we got married, for a very long time. I've wanted to make you mine." I was completely stunned. What is going on here? According to what Liu Ryan's mother had revealed, Liu Ryan was supposed to become meek after drinking, right? Why is she becoming more aggressive instead? Before I could figure it out, I realized something mischievous was at play. This woman wasn't just verbally aggressive. Her hands were also getting restless. Suddenly, I found myself at her mercy. Pushed up against the floor-to-ceiling window, her kisses trailing from my ear to my cheek, then softly landing on the tip of my nose, she whispered with a playful pout, "Husband, I even learned to dance for you, just to seduce you. Do you want to see it? Should I dance for you?" Before I could respond, Liu Ryan gently gripped my wrist, leading my fingertips to brush against her collarbone under the dim, intoxicating lights. Even with the alcohol loosening her, I could clearly see how nervous she was. Her dance moves were clumsy, and I couldn't help but chuckle softly. That laugh seemed to break her confidence. She hesitated, slightly frustrated, but she steadied herself, determined to continue. Right then, her phone rang. Liu Ryan furrowed her brows in annoyance, pulled out her phone, ready to hang up without even looking, but accidentally pressed the answer button instead. Joe's voice came through the speaker. "Ms. Liu, we've identified the attacker." Instantly, my focus shifted. Grabbing the phone from Liu Ryan, I said, "Go on, tell me everything." "Sir," Joe sounded surprised, but he continued. "The boy's name is Makoto Ito. He's Shen Yuchu's childhood friend, and also her secret lover. However, based on my investigation, it turns out Shen Yuchu wasn't exclusive to him. Up to now, there are at least other successful men she's been privately involved with. And sir, you were one of her targets as well. It seems Makoto Ito's purpose was to prevent you from getting close to her. As for why he chose to hurt the one he loves most, it could be out of deep love turned to hatred, or perhaps there's another reason. I'll continue investigating. I'll hang up now. Goodbye, sir." Joe abruptly ended the call. "So that's how it is," I thought, somewhat aligning with my earlier instincts. But before I could reflect further, Liu Ryan pulled me back into her arms. "Husband, can you please focus on me for just a little while?" She murmured jealously, her lips brushing against my neck, tightening her grip on my waist. As she pulled me down onto the bed, warm breaths mixed with the strong scent of alcohol fanned over my face, as Liu Ryan, in a fit of playful jealousy, planted soft kisses on my lips, mumbling, "Husband, what can I do to stop you from looking at other women? Let me protect you, please." Her breaths grew steady, succumbing to the alcohol. That part of her hadn't changed. Shaking my head, I gently pushed her away, watching as her brows furrowed slightly in her sleep. I was lost in thought. What did she mean by "don't let it happen again"? That night, I had a strange dream. In the dream, I wasn't married to Liu Ryan. Instead, I had fallen in love with Shen Yuchu, and we had made a grand public announcement, our passion burning intensely. In the dream, Shen Yuchu took me back to meet her family. To my shock, the person who opened the door was Makoto Ito. Inside the house, it wasn't just him, but also several other successful men. They all warmly welcomed me into their family. Even more bizarre, Shen Yuchu stood there, arms wrapped around different people, like she was ruling over a harem of admirers. I couldn't handle any of it. I turned and ran. But the further I ran, chains and shackles suddenly appeared on my hands and feet, trapping me in place. Behind me, Shen Yuchu held the chains, her voice cold and sinister. "Brother, this is my world. Did you think you could just run away?" As she started pulling me back, a chainsaw appeared out of nowhere, slicing through the chains. A familiar figure quickly swept me up in their arms. Turning and fleeing from Shen Yuchu, "I'm sorry I'm late." That same calm, cool voice, but this time filled with a heart-wrenching tenderness. Yet as we ran away from Shen Yuchu, we found ourselves heading into an endless darkness. At that moment, the dream suddenly shifted, and I saw a younger version of Liu Ryan. Every time she returned to the country, every time our families gathered, she would hide behind a large tree, quietly watching me. As she grew older, she would boldly run up to my parents, telling them that when she grew up, she wanted to marry me and turn her family into an unparalleled empire alongside ours. And as she grew even older, Liu Ryan truly made it happen, becoming the powerful, commanding socialite of the capital, able to sway the tides with just a gesture. In the endless darkness, a faint beam of light suddenly appeared, guiding her slowly toward me. When I woke from the dream, it was already early the next morning. I was drenched in cold sweat, holding my wildly beating heart, leaning against the headboard. It took a moment for me to calm down. How could I have such an outrageous dream? At that moment, my phone suddenly rang, with my manager shouting on the other end, yanking me back to reality. "Wu Fan now, what did you do last night?" "What do you mean? What did I do?" "Never mind, just check the trending topics yourself." Confused, I looked at my phone screen, switched over to the Weibo trending page, and there several trending hashtags with my name were at the top. The most explosive topic was a picture of me and Liu Ryan standing by the floor-to-ceiling window from last night. The comment section had blown up. Liu Ryan and a hot young actor. Wait, isn't Liu Ryan supposed to have a husband already? Isn't she always live streaming about learning dance moves? To seduce her husband? Whoa, Liu Ya and her hubby have issues. Or is it possible that the hubby she's been talking about is actually Wu Fan now? At that moment, the sound of water running in the bathroom gradually stopped. Liu Ryan emerged, her hair damp, wearing a loosely tied bathrobe, her head lowered as she stepped out. When she saw me awake, she seemed startled, her face flushing red as she hurriedly tried to tighten her robe. Flustered, she stammered, I woke up and realized I smelled like alcohol. So I thought I'd take a shower first before it bothered you. About last night, I'm sorry. I think I lost control." Liu Ryan apologized softly. I shrugged, then turned my phone toward her, showing her the trending topics. "And now everyone knows about your little slip-up." Her eyes widened in shock. She quickly moved to the bedside, picking up her own phone, her face cold as she dialed a number. "I'll have Secretary Joe take down the trending posts immediately." "Take them down for what? We're married, aren't we?" I tugged playfully at her bathrobe's belt, tilting my head slightly. "Is being married to me something so shameful that it can't be made public?" "No, Wu Fanao, that's not what I meant." Liu Ryan threw her phone down in a panic, frantically waving her hands. "Wait, what did you call me? Who's old here?" I grabbed a pillow and threw it at her. "You were so bold last night, and now you're acting all shy?" The pillow fell to the floor. Liu Ryan stood there, stunned, but after a brief pause, her expression slowly morphed into the same mix of excitement, shyness, and emotion that she'd shown in her livestream. Her ears flushed red as she cautiously took small steps toward me. Wife, can I call you that? Is it really okay? Her eyes were red, on the verge of tears. She looked like she was about to cry. Suddenly, I had the overwhelming urge to kiss her. Or perhaps it wasn't so sudden after all. So I smiled, pulled her close by the neck, and kissed her soft lips as she looked at me, wide-eyed in surprise. Unfortunately, the moment didn't last. My assistant's phone call shattered the mood. Wu fan out, today's the day the entire crew is visiting Shen Yechu in the hospital. The director's already asking for you. Alright, I'll be right there. I hung up and turned to look at Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan gave me a slightly sorrowful look. I reached out and ruffled her hair gently, trying to comfort her. There's something I need to take care of. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something but stopping herself, lowering her hands in disappointment without a word. Seeing her like this, I thought for a moment, then leaned closer to her ear. Don't worry, I won't make the same mistake again, I whispered. Liu Ryan froze, the dark look in her eyes slowly giving way to a faint light. She stared at me, a small smile curving her lips. Alright, she nodded gently. Later that morning, I headed to the hospital with the film crew. Shen Yechu had recovered quickly, despite the bandages wrapped around her arm. She was lively, chatting and laughing with the crew. That is, until she noticed my arrival. Wu fan out Jay. You came to see me too? She still had that same gentle, kitten-like demeanor, smiling sweetly as she greeted me. But her gaze quickly shifted upward, like she noticed something unusual. Her smile froze at the corners of her mouth. And just then, a supporting actor from the crew, who had always rubbed me the wrong way, jumped in with a mocking tone. Wu fan now, how come you have time to visit? Aren't you planning to do something about that trending topic? You're not really having something with Liu Ryan, are you? She's a married woman after all. All eyes turned to me. I smiled, setting down the fruit basket. My wife and I can do whatever we want. It's neither illegal nor immoral. Why would I need to suppress a trending topic? And since you're all so interested, maybe I'll go back and make an official announcement. Shen Yechu, I wish you a speedy recovery, I said, leaving her with a bitter smile. Her face turned pale and grim, but all she could do was watch with the others as I casually exited the room. I headed toward the fire escape. And as I expected, the person I'd been waiting for appeared. He silently stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Hello, Wu fan now. Makoto Ito flipped up his cap and pulled down his mask. Can we talk for a moment? Talk about what? I asked coolly. He smiled faintly. Let's talk about the real Shen Yechu. You probably don't know, but Shen Yechu has something called the heartthrob of the Sea King system. As the name suggests, it makes her irresistibly alluring to all kinds of people, using men to earn points for completing so-called missions. To her, we're nothing more than code names. I'm the devoted childhood friend. You're the gentle movie star. And there are others hidden in her life. A cold CEO. A pure-hearted college boy. But here's the strange thing. He stared at me intently. All of us, without exception, fall in love with her. Completely at her mercy. Why is it that you're the only one with a favorability rating of 0? I smirked. Why should I have to feel anything for Shen Yechu? Can't I have my own lover? Makoto Ito's eyes widened in disbelief, but then he shook his head with a helpless laugh. Impossible, this world was created for Shen Yechu. Our fates were written into a script long ago. No matter how many times it repeats, nothing ever changes, even though I stabbed her, trying to stop her from getting close to you. You still came to visit her today. That, he said with a pained smile, is proof that we can't escape. I looked at him quietly for a moment, then smiled even more. Makoto, if you've truly surrendered to fate, then why did you attack Shen Yechu that day? This just proves we aren't bound by some so-called destiny. According to what you've said, if this world gives us a chance to start over, we should seize it. Forget about that system you mentioned. Shen Yachu is still just a person. You were able to stab her. So of course I can destroy her too. Ignoring Makoto's shocked expression, I turned and walked back toward the elevator. All the strange unease I'd been feeling, from Shen Yachu's bizarre behavior to that unsettling dream, they all collided in my mind. No matter how hard someone tries to control my fate, I knew I wouldn't let it happen. When I returned to the hotel, Liu Ryan was live streaming with her group of devoted online fans. She was frantically explaining something, completely unaware that I had entered the room. Yes, that's right. My husband, your brother-in-law, is Wu Fan now. Who else could it be? How could I ever cheat on you guys? I should have brought our marriage certificate with me, she exclaimed, flustered. Watching her fumble like that, I almost couldn't stop myself from laughing. Marriage certificate, huh? I pulled out my suitcase, opened the document bag, and took out the small red booklet. Then I sat down beside her, handing her the marriage certificate with a polite gesture. The live stream froze for 3 seconds. Then an overwhelming flood of comments flooded the screen, drowning both our faces. Holy cow, they're really married. Is this the legendary livestream marriage announcement? This is amazing. My anti-drama shield just went up. Wow, sister. I don't care about anything else. I just want to know if your love for Liu Ya has truly ignited. This is crucial to the honor of our strategist group. I glanced at Liu Ryan, who was still frozen in shock, then turned to the live stream camera and confidently replied, "Of course it's real. Next time, she danced for you all. You can verify the results yourselves." The comment section completely erupted. Liu Ryan, clearly upset, abruptly shut off the live stream, then wrapped her arms around me, pouting. "I promised I'd only dance for you, not for them. You can't encourage them like that," she huffed. "But I'm a generous person. Sharing is caring after all," I teased. Before I could finish, Liu Ryan narrowed her eyes and swiftly pinned me down on the bed. Her voice grew huskier, the same aggressive energy from last night returning with force. "I don't care. I refuse to share. I only want to have you all to myself. So, husband, you'll be mine alone too, won't you?" The livestream announcement quickly shot up the trending charts, and the fan group officially transitioned into full-fledged shippers for me and Liu Ryan. More and more fans were rooting for our marriage. Word spread that, according to Makoto Ito, Shen Yachu had also gotten married and was keeping several golden canaries in her cage. As the year drew to a close, a week before Christmas, the crew finally received the good news that Shen Yachu had fully recovered. And to express her apologies and gratitude for their long wait, Shen Yachu went out of her way to host a banquet at her home, inviting the entire film crew to attend. As soon as I received the invitation, a message from Makoto Ito popped up. "Don't go to that stupid party. There's something shady going on." I had just replied with an emoji when I noticed he had already blocked and deleted me, even deactivating his account in the blink of an eye. It was a private account only he and I knew about. So clearly, attending the party wasn't something I could avoid. That night, I dressed up and joined the crew, entering Shen Yachu's grand estate. Wu Fanao Jie. As soon as she saw me, Shen Yachu's eyes lit up, and she walked over to greet me, pretending to scan the room as if searching for someone. "Didn't Liu Zong come with you?" "He's busy," I smiled, tilting my head slightly. "Tonight's a private gathering for the crew. It wouldn't be appropriate for him to join." "I suppose so." Shen Yachu visibly relaxed. The banquet was lively under the starlit sky, full of excitement and noise. Everyone was so caught up in the festivities. No one noticed when Shen Yuchu, holding a glass of red wine, approached me again. Wu Fan Nao Jie, during my recovery, I've been reviewing our script, and I found a few areas that could be improved. Can you help me go over them? Sure, I pretended to be slightly tipsy, nodding as she guided me towards the back of the estate. Before long, a smaller building came into view. It was the exact same place I had seen in my dream. The closer we got, the stronger I felt an almost irresistible pull from inside. But I didn't let it unsettle me. Maybe, as Makoto Ito had said, the so-called attraction was just me being able to maintain my composure. That is, until Shen Yuchu opened the door. What I saw inside left me in shock. There were 4 golden cages in the center of the room. 3 of them holding men, each in a different posture. 2 of them had empty, emotionless gazes, while Makoto Ito was shackled with chains, his mouth gagged with cloth, desperately pleading for help with his eyes. The door closed automatically behind me. Shen Yuchu's wicked laughter echoed in my ears. Oh, my poor Makoto. What good did it do to warn him? Did you really think a commoner could resist me? She scoffed. This is my world to control. I'm the main character after all. You struggled so hard, but what for? Even if you managed to tweak the story a bit, it didn't stop Wu Fanao from coming here with me, did it? Now it's easy. She turned to look at me with a sinister smirk, her eyes narrowing as she reached out her hand toward me. But just as she was about to touch me, I swiftly pulled out a stun gun from my bag and shocked her with it. Shen Yuchu froze, paralyzed by the electric current, then collapsed, stiff as a board. It took her a moment to recover. Her face twisted in disbelief. How are you still conscious? Why wouldn't I be? I smiled calmly. I walked over to Makoto Ito's cage. So this was your script optimization, huh? Oh, so you brought me here just to see your caged canaries? What a dramatic scene, but it'd be boring if I were the only one who witnessed it. Hearing that, Shen Yuchu's face went pale. What do you mean? She stammered, her confidence faltering. I shrug, gently removing the necklace I wore, revealing a tiny hidden camera. At that moment, the door was kicked open. Liu Ryan entered, her face cold as ice, holding a tablet in her hands. She turned the screen toward Shen Yuchu, showing her the live broadcast feed with comments flying on screen. Wow, Shen Yuchu is really this kind of person? That 4th cage, was that one meant for Wu Fanao? This is seriously disturbing. Why is someone like Shen Yuchu even allowed to walk free? Call the cops, get her arrested now. Of course, we wouldn't let the viewers down. The next moment, the sound of police sirens echoed from outside. Shen Yuchu was arrested on the spot. Despite all her connections, with both my family and Liu's family backing me, no one dared to intervene on her behalf. No one even whispered a word of protest. Her entire empire crumbled without a fight. Within a week, all her crimes were exposed. She was sentenced to the fullest extent of the law. I'm sure even the sewing machine in the prison workshop will spark under her feet. Later, Makoto Ito re-registered with a new account, telling me that when he visited Shen Yuchu in prison, she looked at him and screamed, "Why isn't my favorability system showing? Why won't it display anymore? It's impossible. This can't be happening." The guards thought she had lost her mind. I guess Shen Yuchu's system finally abandoned her. Escaping for good, I chuckled softly. Without replying to him, I put down my phone and turned my gaze back to the bedroom. Tonight was Christmas Eve. The ambient lights flickered gently against the walls. Liu Ryan, with her slightly curled hair, wore a Santa hat. She was dressed in a white shirt, half-buttoned. The livestream comments were flying everywhere. Wow, Santa in a limited edition. Dance, Liu, yeah. Come on, just dance. What are you blushing for? What are you nervous about? Standing there like that, seriously? How about brother-in-law joins the stream? I'd rather see a couple's dance between you and your hubby. Liu Ryan glanced at me. Seeing my amused expression, she sighed resigned and swayed slightly to the music. As the comments went wild, suddenly she seemed to make up her mind. Turning to the camera with a serious expression, "Everyone, I have something else to do." She walked toward me, pulled me into the camera frame, then with a thud knelt on one knee, and pulled a small burgundy velvet box from her pocket. She opened the box, taking out a large ring, and pointed it directly at me. "Honey, I've never actually proposed to you. Can I make up for that now? Wu Fanao, will you marry me? I love you. Will you be mine?" I stood there, stunned for a moment. Before I burst into laughter, I extended my left hand toward her. She slowly slid the ring onto my finger. In an instant, Liu Ryan jumped up in excitement, her passion overflowing, wrapping me in a tight embrace. "This time, I will never, ever let you go." I leaned into her embrace, without saying a word. As for the Liu Ryan from my dream, I didn't bring her up, and I didn't feel the need to. The past was in the past. Now we were holding on to the future together. And isn't that the best outcome?